Sam Harris pivots to Nazi apologia. Oh my God. Adam, can you believe this? Sam Harris is defending Nazis?
Well, I mean, it does seem a little odd. Isn't Sam Harris Jewish?
I mean, he is atheist. I believe his family is Jewish. I mean, this is coming from the Majority Report, a very, very reputable, trustworthy source of information and commentary.
I see what's going on here.
Right.
All right. It's so just hyperbole.
I guess maybe we should watch the clip before we pass judgment on whether Sam Harris is going full Nazi here or not.
Okay.
Sam Harris is one of those guys that was apparently this high-minded intellectual that's definitely not a conservative. It's something different. The intellectual dark web. Just kidding. The reality of Sam Harris is that he was one of these new atheists who Bill Maher would have on all the time, who spoke about how religion was very dangerous and
particularly Islam.
In the end, you look at the analysis and much of it was about how really it's these Muslim savages in the Middle East that are the threat to polite Western society, and not other religions, just the ones that we can associate with the war on terror, basically. And it doesn't need to be an analysis about U.S. colonialism or Western interference in the region and exploitation and oil and war. It can just be about the inherent debauchery, the inherent evil of of Islam and of the Muslim faith.
Okay, so said a lot of different things here. I guess the first is interesting is this like Sam Harris, secret conservative.
Yeah,
right?
That was the first jab. Exactly.
Yeah, first jab. Yeah. And you're like, okay, so like what are Sam Harris's positions that make him a quote secret conservative? Well, according to Emma, what makes him a secret conservative is that he doesn't like Islam.
Right.
That's what other positions, Sam Harris, who, I mean, by the way, this is like laughable, and this shows how ideologically up her own butt Emma and the people here at the Majority Report are, because we all know, and everyone who's not in that bubble knows, that Sam Harris, his like really, really despises Donald Trump with every ounce of his being. Okay?
Oh yeah.
He hates
GDS
Donald Trump with every ounce of his being. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. But we've covered Sam's, commentary, a lot of his anti-Trump commentary, and a lot of what Sam kind of split with the quote IDW, or sort of like a lot of people that he was kind of in the same realms with, was over, them not being as anti-Trump as him, them kind of questioning a lot of the COVID stuff. So I'm just very curious, Emma, what exact positions has Sam Harris ever said that are like quote conservative? Because I can't really think of any of them except that he doesn't like Islam, which is not even conservative. They used to be a pretty liberal position until recently. The only thing is really that he just calls out political correctness and wokeness. That's like the only thing I could think of that would even get him even remotely put into that camp.
This is just a meme at this point. A lot of these people, they don't, anything that's not progressive, they label conservative. So
Right.
Just not being rah for the progressive tribe lands you in the conservative camp, regardless of where you are on the political spectrum. But most progressives are, they're the least understanding of other people's political perspectives. It's kind of funny that they all claim to have such empathy for people when they find it impossible to empathize with anyone that's not a progressive.
Mm-hmm. Right, exactly. And then also this like concept of like Sam Harris hasn't complained about other religions. I guess she's just not familiar even remotely with Sam Harris's body of work or anything he's ever said ever. I mean, Sam Harris has been pretty anti-religion forever. Right?
Yeah, he's an anti-theist.
He's an anti-theist. And actually, that was like a big part of his like very long conversations with Jordan Peterson were his, anti-theism completely. And just because Sam Harris has the position where he says like, yeah, he's against religion, but he acknowledges that specific religions seem to be more problematic in our current time, space, in the universe at this moment, doesn't mean that he, gives a pass to all other religions.
Well, he specifically doesn't like religions because he views them as anti-science. But there is also this illiberal notion of religion. And I think he doesn't like Islam because Islam tends to be more illiberal than Western forms of Christianity.
Right.
So it's that anti-science, and then the illiberalism on top of that is just like a bridge too far for Sam Harris.
Right. In which they're going to play some clips from Sam Harris's podcast, and after they play it, I want to, he uploaded a longer clip that was like an extra minute and a half. And I want to play that because he actually spells out basically what you just exactly said just there.
Right. Yeah. I'm familiar with Sam Harris.
Yeah.
And so he's been kind of a Trump critic recently. Speaking of that IDW split, he's been criticizing Trump getting some cachet back with liberals. But this was from.
You like how she says recently, like it's like a new thing? Like in the year 2024, like Sam Harris has only been complaining about Trump recently. He's been complaining about Trump for like the last 8 years. Ever since Trump entered the stage, he's been complaining about Trump. What is he talking about recently?
She's acting like he was a Trump supporter at one time, and then Trump just has gone too far. He's hated Trump all along.
And when she says like, yeah, continue.
He was a big hater of the Trump University stuff. Like he's always talking about that. Yeah.
And when she says like she's hating on Trump to get cachet with liberals, which again, horribly bad faith, it makes it sound like Sam's only doing it in order to gain some kind of, credibility with the left, which he's always had his position. If you love or hate Sam, that's fine. But he seems to be a person who's going to tell you what he thinks. He's not being pushed one direction or the other by like audience capture.
No.
From his podcast episode recently, a reminder that Sam Harris, despite not liking Trump, is still one of the most hateful Islamophobic bigots in media right now.
The overwhelming majority of people who are this confused about how to live good lives.
Okay, I just want to pause it for a second. Okay, I got to point something out. If you're trying to adjust your speakers, it doesn't matter. Okay, give up. And by the way, that's not us. That audio quality on Sam's podcast being like total awful garbage, that's not us. And it's also not Sam, because I listened to this podcast. It's crystal clear, perfect audio quality. This garbage audio quality, someone in the Majority Report studio is playing Sam's podcast on their cell phone and holding it up to a microphone in order to record this quality is because of the Majority Report. They are so incompetent that for some reason they can't get the love. They just can't get good audio quality in their videos. Okay. That's them. It's 100% them. And it's funny because this reminds me of the very famous feud between Sam Seder and Tim Pool, where Tim Pool accused the Majority Report of intentionally playing his song with terrible audio. And I think we finally solved it. Okay. We finally solved the case. It wasn't intentional. They're just all incompetent idiots over at the Majority Report, and they can't get normal audio playing for their videos.
They were kind of proud of their incompetence with Tim Pool, but look, maybe they're just gaslighting Tim. Maybe they're doing this deliberately. They're like, look at how bad we are at audio.
It's insane. It really sounds to me like someone is playing the Sam Harris clip on their phone, and they just held it up to a microphone.
It's like, garbage. It's total garbage.
It's like we're a very small organization. It's just you and me, Adam. We don't hire anyone to do audio or editing for us live in a studio or something. Yeah, we're doing all this stuff ourselves. And with this magical website called the Watch Together, you just put the YouTube clip in, and then you can just watch it. It's the audio comes out fine.
They got some kind of high-end mixer that someone doesn't know how to use. So
right.
Are Islamic extremists.
So bad.
And the worst of these are jihadists. Now, Hamas is a jihadist organization. In my view, that's all we need to know about it. The question of how it got that way is fundamentally uninteresting.
Pause.
As is the question of why so many Palestinians have come to support it.
This is why. Okay, I just want to take this piecemeal. Why is it uninteresting to you to talk about the origins of Hamas, Sam Harris? Because it would undercut everything you're saying?
Yeah, because the context actually tells you everything you need to know. Why does the colonial resistance?
Well, if you not like, it's weird because like we watch videos and then we pause them, and we always try to be very careful. So okay, like if we cut someone off mid, point, we try to like hear the point first before we interrupt, right? Sam is literally about to explain his thought process, and then they cut it off before he explains it to just straw man and give him a bunch of like, BS talking, their own Kathy Newman version of his position.
Bad faith all the way.
Resistance group form? Why does it resort to terrorism? Like these things are all actually have been studied even beyond the Israel-Palestine experience.
It's just also just a very anti-materialist take, obviously. And it's the kind of thing that I think appeals to like, very middle-brow thinkers who...
I hate it when people bring up materialism. I look, because there's two versions of materialism. There's the Marxist version of materialism, and there's the philosophical version of materialism.
Mm-hmm.
Like, do you mean economic materialism, or do you mean like the material world scientific materialism?
He 100% means Marxist.
Marxist?
materialism.
Okay.
Okay.
Who presume themselves to be very intelligent, that they would think, of course, because Islam is something different. It's something that exists outside of like traditional historical and material, cause and effect. It's something that just like makes your brain rot out. But like that's completely ridiculous, obviously. And he would not accept that kind of, and I think go back to your earlier point about like the distinctions that they make between Islam and other, even Abrahamic religions. Like,
so is he saying that Islamic people are poor? Why did he bring up materialism?
Well, this is why they shouldn't have cut Sam off, or actually tried to give like a modicum of good faith and try to understand what he's saying, because they like heavily focus on this materialist aspect, where he's saying like, well, before you criticize Hamas or before you criticize, radical Islamic terrorists, you have to understand that
they're poor.
Yeah, that they're poor, or that, whatever their material conditions are, helping create or have created, the radical violent environment, blah, 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 which is true to an extent. It's definitely true, but that being said, there's two issues here. Number one, which is Sam's point, which is who gives a fuck? It doesn't matter. If you have people that are, enacting violence against you or threatening violence against you, at the very moment, it doesn't really matter like what systemic long-term, situations have facilitated and created this ideology of violence or terrorism, because you're like, that's something you can hope to work to change over time. That's not something you're going to deal with like right when they're attacking you. And you literally can't. So it doesn't actually matter. And it also doesn't, it's weird because like so many people on the left do this, including the people in this podcast, the Majority Report, is that like, I get that, yeah, people in bad environments often turn to bad solutions and bad ideologies, but that's not a justification. Just because something bad happened to you doesn't justify you being a horrible person. And that's what these people like need to get through their head on the left here. Because something bad happened to you does not justify you being awful. All right.
Yeah, especially awful to other innocent people. I mean, that should be
Yes.
part of our ideology, right?
Yes.
Just because something
exactly.
horrible happened to you doesn't mean you get to take it out on somebody else. Let's stop the cycle of violence, right?
Right. And then the second thing, which Sam doesn't talk about here, but he's talked about in other places, is that there is a problem, which they won't address beyond the quote material conditions, because there are people who get sucked into the realms of really toxic, bad ideologies, even if they don't have bad material conditions. I mean, look
True.
and very often the leaders of these like horrible movements are not poor. Okay. The leaders of Hamas are all rich because they've basically sucked up all the, the aid money, and they're living in, fancy hotel rooms and doing all sorts of other horrible things with the money that's supposed to be going to helping the Palestinian people, right? They're not the victims of their material conditions. Osama bin Laden grew up wealthy. Okay. He didn't grow up in poverty. He grew up wealthy and in a family that, supported him. So there are ideologies, and so many people on the left just refuse to acknowledge this. There are ideologies and philosophical, thought processes that are just awful and will lead people, regardless of their material conditions, down bad pathways. And yes, people in worse material conditions can be more likely to get sucked into them, but you can still suck up people that are in totally fine material conditions to these horrible ideologies, and you need to be able to criticize those ideologies.
Yeah,
Period.
just criticize them for the ideologies that they are.
Yes. Yeah.
They would never cast Christians who probably exist in their communities in that with that same light. They wouldn't say like, this doesn't matter.
Right. And they've done.
You know, I wonder if you ask them like, well, why are you guys criticizing white nationalists? Okay, why are you not looking at the material conditions that created them? Why are you criticizing them as people? Why are you criticizing their ideology? What about their material conditions? Okay.
They would never let that slide.
No, never.
Done this before, by the way. It's kind of an evolution from just traditional racism, where you saw it honestly in the way that black people were talked about in this country, where it's like, well, I mean, where are the fathers? What's wrong with the values that they're teaching? And it's just kind of a way to be like, black people are inferior. Now it's not just Muslim people they're not civilized inherently. It's what's being taught to them in their ideology.
Well, I mean, that's a great point, Emma, because when we saw racism as defined by, or at least like vocal racism defined by like just the argument that black people are inherently naturally inferior, become unpopular, we saw so much more, so many more like right-wing thinkers like shift to that, it's black culture. It's not natural. Mm-hmm. It's black culture. And it's something that black culture, you're not even supposed to examine it in the context of like, well, what gave rise to black culture? Is it like...
They're just debating like the most incendiary straw man version of a conservative ever.
Yes. Yeah.
That's pretty hilarious.
But
this is Sam Harris. This is a Sam Harris conservative that they're...
I know, right? Right. But this point that Emma's making and this other guy's making is actually completely fucking insane. And I despise it. Because so we as a society in the past, and this is true of all human societies, used to be really bigoted and racist.
Of course.
And
yeah, stereotypes.
Right. And they would look at a population, a group of people, and they'd say, okay, like, based on some trend of this group of people that I observe in my daily experience, I'm going to make broad, create negative stereotypes based on this group of people. Black people are criminals, Jews are untrustworthy, Asians are trying to sneak in their country, whatever. There's like a million of these fucking stereotypes that used to exist. And now we've moved for the most part, not everyone obviously, but most of us and, these Western societies has, moved beyond the realm of, saying, okay, because of your biology, because of your skin color, you have these negative traits, associated with you, rooted into your DNA, and thus you can't change, right? Your DNA, your country of origin, your race kind of dictates your behavior. We've kind of done away with thinking about people in that way, fortunately, right?
Yeah, because it's not true.
Right, because it's not, and it's not true. Okay, and that's good, But, and this is why what Emma is saying is like horribly stupid. It is true, and we know this, that different demographic groups of people fall into specific trends and just do different trends and fall into the trends in specific ways. Okay. You can look at America and say, oh, look, a certain group of people, Asians, and specifically like Chinese and Japanese and Indians seem to be doing very well in college, seem to be not going to jail very much, seem to be, doing better than white people in terms of, what they're doing, with their income. And then other groups of people like native, blacks who are native to America, because obviously black immigrants are different in terms of what their gains are in society, seem to be doing worse in terms of economic gains to society, seem to be doing worse in terms of having higher crime rates and things of that nature. Okay. These are statistical facts. And so it's important as a society, if you actually want, things to be good for people, to say, well, why is that? Why is the black community in America having these issues? And if you're going to say, okay, we all agree it's not biological, it's not some sort of race essentialism, we all agree that that's good. But if you're going to say, okay, well, you can't say that there's some kind of cultural issue, there's some kind of socio-cultural psychological issue. Then how do you describe, then what's going on here, right? Then what is it? If you can't talk about any reason about why a specific group in America is doing worse than other groups, then how can anything get better?
They can talk about it, but they just differ on what the cause is. Like these guys will say it's all racism. That's what the problem is. Like
So they're
obviously.
So these people are so stupid. They're such idiots. They think that the only reason that there's a higher crime rate in the black community, and the only reason that blacks on average are doing worse than whites and Asians, economically, is just because racism, just because everyone is out to get them.
Yes.
Okay.
That's what they believe.
It's so fucking dumb. And these people are so stupid because they can acknowledge, I bet you, if you sat down and say, listen, I bet you, if you had a conversation with them, like, why do you think it is that lower class white people and poor white people who are in more rural areas, why do you think it's that they're more likely to be racist or bigoted? Why is it that you think just on average that they're more likely to not have, the economic gains of white people, in more urban or suburban areas, right? And they would give you all sorts of cultural, environmental reasons. They'll be able to have that conversation, right? But as soon as you talk about,
I'm not sure they would.
I think they could. I think they 100%. You think they're just going to say, "Oh, they're just intrinsically racist because
they're going to say
white?
They're conservative racists. That's why they're
No." But if you ask them
depressed.
why, like, why do they have these views, right?
Because they're poor,
right? But they would understand that there's like that being poor.
They would say that the views are creating the poverty, though. That they would say that's the causal direction. That because they're racist conservatives, that's why they're poor.
I don't think they would. Well, maybe they would. They would be hypocritical considering they're trying to come at from this like hyper materialistic lens, right?
Yeah,
but
of course.
The thing that's really important to get, and that these people on the left, like in the majority report, don't understand, is that culture has to be self-perpetuating. Otherwise, it's not culture, it's just a person doing something. Right? Culture has to be self-perpetuating. And there are obviously cultures that we all acknowledge that will exist among class. There's a poor culture, there's a middle class culture, there's a rich culture, there's cultures in the Northeast, the Southeast, the Southwest. There's all cultures that, geographically dependent, but they're also class-based cultures. Okay. And so what that means is that since culture is self-perpetuating, that if you have a culture that arises among being poor, it's going to have elements to it, attributes to it, that's going to retain the quality of keeping the participants of that culture poor. And that's kind of an important part when you're trying to say, well, how do we lift up people from poverty? And if you don't understand that, you don't fucking understand anything to help solve these social problems.
Yeah, they don't. They're not trying to solve these social problems. So all they're trying to do is disparage their ideological opponents.
Right.
White supremacist American culture? Is that a big sort of bedrock of like black culture in America? Maybe, maybe not, but that shouldn't be taken into account when you're talking about like why black people believe the things that they believe, why they participate in society. And, that's just now being adapted to like Islam as a general term for like, I guess, Arab culture. Basically. Because they definitely mean Arab people. They don't mean like when they think of Muslims, they don't think of like all of the Asian Muslims in parts of the Indonesia, but they think of, they think of like Arab people.
Exactly.
It's interesting because he's doing the same thing, both with, talking about black people as he's talking about with Arab people. It's like, yeah, we understand. And Sam Harris isn't stupid. And he would acknowledge this all too, that the reason for obviously the reason for a lot of problems that the black population has in America is literally because of the history of slavery, segregation, and racism. And that's, put a lot of black people in a hole that they've basically been, a lot have had very difficulty as a community climbing out. Sam Harris acknowledges that. I acknowledge that. Anyone who's being honest acknowledges that. Okay. But that doesn't mean that going forward in the future that you just excuse the behavior because it wasn't like the community's fault in the past, that you excuse the behavior going forward, or they just throw your hands up and say, well, I guess we can't change because, my ancestors, created the problem in the first place.
Right. Yeah.
Exactly. All right.
That's all we need to know about it. The question of how it got that way is fundamentally uninteresting.
I'm sure.
As is the question of why so many Palestinians have come to support it. It would be like asking in 1941 how the SS became so radicalized. And why do so many millions of Germans support it? That's an interesting question now.
Yeah, pause it.
Right now that Nazism has been...
Why would you not want to examine that?
Right.
Why would you not want to examine that? That is an interesting question. It's
I mean, you could play the clip for like literally another 5 or 10 seconds. He's trying to explain his thought process on that, guys. But okay, just pause it and you describe whatever you want to him, I guess.
actually really important.
It's also important to like start like trying to figure that stuff out as it's happening. History isn't just something that we do in hindsight to talk about the past. Like understanding the contemporary socio-political and other factors that led to the rise of Nazism as it's happening concurrently is important, because a lot of times once it's over, there's a lot of revisionist history that is painted for a lot of these things. Like a lot of Nazism gets blamed entirely on like lower class Germans, for example, when we know, especially from writings at the time, that there was a lot of support amongst the more upwardly mobile middle class Germans of the time. It wasn't simply just like it wasn't like totally lower class rebellion take over the country. The petite bourgeoisie were very involved in it.
Yeah, I mean, and
hey, listen, Adam, I don't know if you know this. It's really important that we bring up that the petite bourgeoisie were also involved in the Nazi movement. It's very important that you know that. Okay.
Right. Yeah, they're just trying to drag the Marxist stuff into this conversation so desperately.
Petite bourgeoisie is just the Marxist way of saying small business owner and white collar worker.
Yeah.
And abstracting the Holocaust from history is extremely dangerous. We've been saying this as it relates to this 6 months of Israel's genocide for a while now, because Netanyahu has spread conspiracy theories that it was actually the Palestinian Grand Mufti who gave Hitler the idea to exterminate the Jews. And then you hear Sam Harris saying this exact kind of same thing. We'll keep playing it, but saying that Hamas and jihadists generally are worse than the Nazis. I mean, I think that is basically a denial of the conditions that led to the Holocaust, because you should be examining that this was a fascist, far-right, nationalistic political movement that occurred within historical and political context and didn't just come out of, say, some random ideology. These are all powerful and power structures that led to the rise of Nazis, and they're not too far away from the ones that still exist today.
Really, I don't know if you noticed that, and we're on the precipice of Nazism today. It's right there. The power structures in America, it's right there. We're so close. I mean, Elon Musk, he's basically like Hitler at the moment. Him and Donald Trump, right? Hitler and Goebbels hand in hand.
We're on the verge of Donald Trump being president, so
right.
I'm sure Emma's very terrified.
Right. But obviously the ludicrous of that statement aside, there's 0% chance that if you actually asked Adam, Sam Harris, do you think that the material conditions, help lead to the rise of Nazism? Of course he would say yes. Everyone with their fucking mother knows this shit, Emma. We all know, Germany got screwed over by, the agreement in World War II. They had inflation. They were poor. I mean, I'm sure Emma doesn't want to talk about how the fact that another thing that really triggered the Germans was all the socialist revolutions that were happening in Germany, and the socialist workers that were shutting down factories and taking over things were giving ample energy to the Nazi movement. Emma, what about those material conditions? You want to acknowledge material conditions creating Nazism? How about that it was a backlash against the radical left in Germany at the time? Want to talk about that? Or does that just get pushed aside, right?
I mean, not saying that is exactly, that's going to happen, but the point is just it's less than 100 years old. And it's not like we fundamentally remade society in a way that we don't have these kind of far-right demagogues anymore. Nazism and far-right movements exist throughout the world, but abstracting them from history means you don't have to analyze the power structures that led to it. And you can make these crazy claims like Sam Harris does here.
Support it? That's an interesting question now, right now that Nazism has been defeated. But in 1941, there was nothing to do but kill Nazis. I feel exactly the same way about jihadists. In fact, jihadists are worse than Nazis, in my view. They don't have the same power the Nazis had in the 30s and 40s, which is a very good thing, and we should keep it that way. But their ideology is actually worse.
All right, pause it again.
Jihadists.
I'm sorry.
Wow. That's something else. I mean, just to your point before we listen to more of that, Emma, that's one of the main purposes of like extricating the Holocaust and World War II and the atrocities committed by the Germans during that time from history, from modernity, from like any contemporary analysis, because then you don't have to examine all of the component characteristics that existed in their society and existed globally that gave rise to it, that could continue to exist to this day. You can just pretend like it was an anomaly. It wasn't an atrocity committed by the Western world. And that's why you can say things like, oh, Islamic jihadists are actually worse than the Nazis because their culture is giving rise to this hatred. But that's not what happened with the Nazis in Germany. It was something different. It wasn't Western culture giving rise to this sort of thing. It wasn't the anti-Semitism and the colonialism and the sort of just widespread fascism that existed at the time in one form or another. It was just an.
What did colonialism have to do with the Holocaust, Sitch? I'm just curious.
Well, this guy's so brain rot on Marxism that he's just throwing out every, buzzword.
I know all this is just buzzword. Get to the substance.
The colonialism when it's so like his
Germany
point he's
was
trying
a
to
colony of England or something. Like, what the fuck are you talking about?
It's retarded. But so the point he's trying to make, which is equally wrong, is he's saying that Sam, and he's saying it in the dumbest way possible, Sam should acknowledge that he doesn't want to say Nazism is as bad as jihadism because Nazism is a consequence of Western European philosophy. And that's why Sam is giving it like a pass, right? That's what this guy's saying. Which, first of all, Sam is not giving Nazism a pass. That's insane. Number one. Number two, which, of course, the Marxist socialist would say this, and he's fucking retarded for saying it. Fascism is an anti-Western philosophy. It's an anti-liberal Western philosophy, just as communism is. They're both anti-Western liberalism.
Right.
So to just be like, well, fascism is this sort of like Western? No, it's not. It's anti everything that came before it. That's the entire point of fascism.
Right. Yeah. All right. Let us continue.
Anomaly, which is different than Islamicism or whatever, which is just like it's like that's all their culture is. That's all their culture can give rise to. It's very insidious.
It's really insidious, and what you do is lay conditions for history to repeat itself when you aren't explicit about this, and when you say that the fact that Nazis that had more power is irrelevant to our condemnation of them as a political movement. I mean, the whole problem with the Nazis is that they had power. It's not this isn't some sort of you're a bad guy, I'm a good guy, I'm a civilized smart person, you're a dumb brown person analysis. I mean, this is just for children.
Well, it's purely.
So okay. So Emma's so dumb. It's shocking me how dumb Emma is.
I keep imagining. I would love to look at her SAT scores just to have some touchstone evidence here.
It's like she's like going off like it's not about that the Nazis had more power. No, okay. I'll say it very slowly, Emma, since I guess what Sam said was too confusing for you. Sam's point was that, yes, the Nazis inflicted more death and destruction because they had more power. But if you were to isolate the actions, okay, and you just like take the philosophies and the ideologies and you put them side to side, he's saying that the jihad philosophy, the jihad ideology, isolated in a vacuum, is worse than the Nazi ideology. And if the jihad people had the same level of power that the Nazis had, they would have inflicted far worse things. That's what Sam Harris is saying, which I thought was evidently clear. But I guess Emma doesn't understand this very simple concept.
Both philosophies are supremacist philosophies.
Yeah.
I would say that's the point of danger,
right,
in the philosophies.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and here's the thing: like you can now, Sam explains why he thinks the jihadist philosophy is worse than the Nazi one, and you could criticize that, and you could say, "Well, I don't know if I agree with that." That's fine, but you have to actually like listen to what his argument is, and then have a conversation about it, as opposed to whatever the fuck this is, right? This just an excuse to call Sam Harris racist, to say he's doing some kind of Nazi apologia, which nothing like that is remotely happening in his statements.
Right.
The ideological.
Yeah.
We've moved from any sort of material or historical considerations into who has the worst brain and whose brain is doing the worst thing. And that is a fundamentally misanthropic and elitist position. And that's what Sam Harris is here for.
And in the end, it's racist too. I mean, because why would you?
Yeah.
He says, break out the calipers.
Yeah. Yeah.
This is just such an epic straw man.
Yes. He's just racist. He's just racist. I don't know. I have no clue. Like, they just assume, they don't, without even listening to his argument about why he's saying this, they say, listen, without even hearing his reasoning, it doesn't make any sense to me. So I'm going to assume that he just thinks jihadism is worse than Nazism is because the Nazis were white, even though he's fucking literally Jewish, right? Just because they were white, then it's worse. He thinks that they're better than the not white people. That's their racism. I just assume.
Oh, yeah. These guys are big time bigots.
These guys are huge fucking racists. They say, oh, just because Sam Harris is white, he must therefore be racist.
Yeah.
Why would you be absolving? Yeah.
No, it's also fucked up to be like, sorry, cursing, but it's also messed up to say like, oh, the Nazis are gone. That's why we can analyze them critically now. And also the Nazis aren't that bad. You know who's really bad? Brown people.
Yep.
Like that's his analysis.
Look, he's never said that. It's just, I can't. This is insane.
Yeah, remember when he said brown people are the baddies? Remember when Sam Harris said those words?
Oh, this is so evil. This is so evil.
Analysis. At the same time, he's saying Nazis don't exist. He's also saying they're not so bad, not as bad as like degenerate Muslims. Like, yeah.
All these people will cry too when people accuse him of anti-Semitism for criticizing the policies in Israel. I'll be like, what? I'm not allowed to criticize Israel without being called a racist? But that's their go-to move. Criticize Islam? Oh, you're a racist.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's wild.
It's analogous to what Douglas Murray said after he watched the tape from October 7th, for like the unedited.
Matt Binder's getting very good at this ventriloquist bit where he talks without moving his mouth at all. It's amazing. How's he doing this? It's incredible.
It's the guy. It's that guy whose name escapes me. The other Matt. Isn't his name Matt something? The other Matt who's just, like always there but not on screen.
Watch this. Matt is speaking right now and watch his lips. They don't even move at all.
Footage from October 7th that basically he wrote an op-ed afterwards where he was like, even Nazis like drank themselves to sleep to like forget all of the atrocities that they committed. They were racked with guilt about what they were doing in the concentration camps. Somehow, in the effort to say how bad Hamas is and how evil Hamas is, it's also somehow in some way implicitly obviating or at least slightly absolving what the Nazis did in the Holocaust.
Yeah.
I mean, the jump to just bringing up the Nazis too is a tell there. Like, why even bring them up?
Okay.
I'll
also just make a note, like, don't fucking give Richard Hanania any attention. Don't quote tweet him. Leave that little Nazi roach, like, to die in obscurity. People need to not be shocked by the Nazi doing Nazi things on Twitter and quote tweeting it. But anyway, here we go.
But their ideology is actually worse. Jihadism is essentially Nazism plus an expectation of paradise. It's
Pure
Nazism
ideology.
plus religious fanaticism. Nazism plus an eagerness to be martyred and to see their children martyred. There are many differences between Nazism and jihadism, of course, but they only make the Nazis look comparatively benign.
Oh my God.
Nazism was a quasi-religious phenomenon.
Nazi apologism.
These people were not rationalists. It was basically racist mysticism anchored to a cult of personality. But the Nazis didn't use their own women and children as human shields.
This is him. So that's just basically saying that the jihadists want you to kill their children.
Yep.
And also that the Nazis weren't so bad, apparently. That's what I learned today from Sam Harris's podcast. Didn't he used to just do like Zen meditation or something?
Did he say anywhere in that statement that the Nazis weren't so bad?
No, not at all. He's bringing them up because of the supremacist connection.
Yes.
Yeah.
His point was, which again you could agree with or disagree with, he's saying that that he thinks the jihadis are worse because the Nazis were not willing to basically throw their children and women in suicide attacks essentially at their enemy, right?
Right. Yeah.
Blow them up. Now, I could have this conversation with Sam Harris because unlike these chuckle fucks, I'm an intelligent person. And you could bring up the point and say, well, I can understand that point, Sam. And there's a level that is true. But I don't know how useful of analysis it is because I think it's probably also true that the only reason that the jihadist ideology kind of exists with the suicide mentality isn't, I mean, yeah, part of it is the religious aspect and the belief of an afterlife, which wasn't really associated with Nazism, even though there were mystical components, which is true. But I think it's only because these jihadist organizations don't have power. They don't have systemic power. And that's why they've basically had to rely and utilize these ideologies in these suicidal death culty kind of ways in an extent that the Nazis didn't have to do because they actually had a government and they had, systemic power in their own country.
Right. Their circumstance is what created the tactic. That's a good counter argument.
Right. That would be the way I would have that conversation. But these fucks are completely not capable of having this conversation whatsoever because they just want to use it as an excuse to say Sam Man bad, Sam Man racist, blah, 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 blah.
It's ironic because they're all against white supremacy, obviously.
Right.
And the supremacist part of Nazism and Islam is really the problem.
Yeah.
So they acknowledge that different groups calling themselves superior over other groups is a giant problem. But they don't see that in Islam. Kind of funny. It's invisible to them.
Yeah, because because these people are all horrible fucking racist bigots and they cannot perceive of or conceive of non-white people creating an ideology or doing something that's bad. It's like, oh, it's the white people. That's where all the problems in the world all stem from the white people. And if there's ever a group of non-whites doing something bad, well, listen, you got to make all the fucking excuses in the world.
Right. Yeah. So since most Islamic people are brown, then they can't be supremacists, right? They can't see their religion as superior to any other religion and want to annihilate every other religion from existence.
You don't understand, Adam. Okay, that's only because they're victims of colonialization.
Oh, I know. Here comes the excuses.
It's the victims of the white European colonization that just mind controlled everyone in the entire world and made them all become horrible people.
They had to be supremacists. Okay, get the fuck out of here.
So I want to play. Here, let's see if they say anything else.
Or something. I feel like
him and Russell Brand.
I mean, I've heard enough.
Okay.
I don't know if you're done, but
yeah. Well, they kind of go to like a different clip after this. That's not interesting, worth watching.
Okay. Well, this is painful.
Right.
Yeah.
So I want to play the last minute and a half of Sam Harris that they don't play, by the way.
Okay. Nice.
Because he kind of goes into this more and Sam makes an interesting point and actually shows you where his thinking is and shows you what I think not only Sam thinking, but a lot of people who are center or right think that people on the left just are completely blind to, and they have no fucking concept of this. And so they don't understand anything that's being discussed here or what's emotionally triggering some people.
Right.
Now, Hamas.
Oh, what's this amazing audio?
Yeah, look at this.
Sam is such an audiophile.
I know. This is totally fine audio. Okay.
Nazis didn't use their own women and children as human shields. That would have been worse. How could you have made Auschwitz worse? Well, you could have given the guards a belief system that made them feel actual religious ecstasy as they herded innocent people into gas chambers. That would have been worse. And it would have been worse had these beliefs been central to the worldview of a majority of ordinary Germans, and therefore difficult to separate from their other religious beliefs that gave their lives meaning. Right? That would have been worse.
Now, again, this is an interesting point that, the majority of people can't have a conversation about, which is that part of the difficulty, it's not possible, obviously, but part of the more difficulty with, the danger of the jihad movement is that it is subsumed in their Islamic religious beliefs, so that trying to separate the two belief systems to reform, to have like reformed, Islam that is compatible with Western philosophy is more difficult than with like the Nazism. Like the Nazi ideology was sort of its own new thing. It was kind of, there had been a philosophy or a feeling of German superiority in German culture for many, many years, but the specific tenets of Nazism were kind of unique enough that it wouldn't be so impossible, as we've seen obviously right now, because the Nazi movement in Germany isn't a thing anymore, to separate it from the German, philosophical principles going forward.
Yeah.
What Nazism actually was. And that would have made it harder to purge from German society after we had killed a sufficient number of committed Nazis. Now, as I've made clear many times before, my support for Israel in this conflict is not born of my identity as a Jew. It's not born of my attachment to the religion of Judaism, of which I have none. And while the eruption of global anti-Semitism in response to October 7th has changed my sense of the vulnerability of Jews everywhere, my support for Israel in this war isn't due to a special focus on the problem of anti-Semitism or a special connection to Israel as a country. It's born of a special connection to civilization, to the norms of open societies, to individual rights and freedom of thought, and to secularism and rationality and basic decency. That is, to everything that jihadists seek to destroy.
So
yeah, that's the Sam Harris I remember.
Right. But see, this is such an important point that so many people on the left, especially the far left, are completely blind to, okay? Is that a fear that a lot of people have, not just on the right, but a lot of people in the center, and even a lot of moderate left people have, is the fear of the barbarian archetype, okay? Of a group of people, it's not a race thing, okay? Of a group of people or a culture, an idea that's going to come in and they're going to tear down everything that your society is built around in the name of chaos and disorder. And
Right.
That's literally what October 7th looked like to the majority of the world. It was an attack. It was like an old world, ancient world, 1,000-year-old, like ancient barbarian attack where they're going to come and pillage your shit and steal your women and children. That's what it looked like to the majority of the world. And these radical left types, because they hate society, they hate the Western world, they're completely blind to this feeling, this threat of like this barbarism, essentially. And that, yes, right now we do have to worry about the anti-Western liberal forces in the world, and jihadism is one of those forces. It's not a race issue.
Yeah, it is kind of strange because they do see the forces of society as barbarism. They see society as the evil, and that if society could just crumble, then humanity would live, their true selves. It would be hearts and unicorns across the world, right?
Well, I wouldn't use the word barbarism. I don't think the left, especially the radical left, they don't think barbarism exists. They see like the authoritarian dictator of our society, the white supremacy of our society, as the problem.
Mm-hmm.
And you're right. When they believe that when that crumbles or is destroyed, we're all going to live in huggy-buggy nature. And the reason they believe that we're all going to live in huggy-buggy nature is because they don't perceive of barbarism and barbarians as a real potential threat. They don't understand it as a threat.
Right. Well, they do see like people as oppressors. Like
yes,
the slave master is, a threat that they understand. Right.
Right.
But they see the slave master as an instrument of society.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Right. Where the barbarian is kind of like an instrument of the wilds. It's like an anti-society.
Yeah, I agree with you that the barbarian is not really a good term that they wouldn't agree to. Well, you understand what I'm saying.
Yeah, of course, right?
Yeah.
So there you go. This is the primo content you can expect from the majority report to just completely not. And also, it's just hilarious that they're like accusing Sam Harris of all this stuff when, Sam Harris, equally goes on and on about how he thinks Donald Trump is like this huge threat to Western liberal democracy too. And that they just hand wave away, right? So they can just call him a racist because, they're such simps for Islam right now at the moment.
Yeah, I don't think there's a lot of thinking going on over there at the old majority report.
No.
It seemed like a lot of deep thoughts.
Nope.
All right. Anything else?
That's it.
Hi, you just listened to a Sitch and Adam recorded video. That's right, we're still doing recorded videos. And of course, we're still doing our live streams. Our Sunday live stream begins at 1 p.m. Pacific, 4 p.m. Eastern. And our daily live streams start at 11 p.m. Pacific, 2 p.m. Eastern. Come check it out. You're gonna love it. Subscribe to this channel right here to watch the live show or watch more of our awesome deep dive videos.